Hi everyone, it's Kerry Griffiths, the Divorce Financial Planner, Willow Brook Lifestyle Financial Planning. I'm here again talking about strategies to survive the early days of a divorce. And I'm really pleased to welcome along a guest who's an absolute specialist in this area. So this is Claire Black, and she is a breakup and divorce coach, and she is an author. She's just released her book, Breakup from Crisis to Confidence. Let's have a little look, Claire. How beautiful
it is.
And Claire is going to share with us all of her experience and her knowledge to really help you at that beginning part of your journey. Claire, do you want to tell us a little bit more about you?
Thank you, Kerry. Good morning. So I'm a breakup and divorce coach, as Kerry said, and I work with individuals to help them handle the emotional roller coaster that is divorce, build their confidence and strength over time so that they can create new lives that they're excited about, and look back in the future with pride over how they've behaved and what they've achieved.
Absolutely. I love that idea of looking back with pride. Claire and I were just talking before I started recording about the journey that we see our clients go on, and how often that results in them having a really positive outcome, and reimagining their future. But that first part, that's what we're going to focus on today, isn't it, Claire? That really first difficult, traumatic starting point, because it often is a place of real darkness, and we just wanted to help you and just talk about some strategies. When I say we, it's all going to be Claire, because I'm not a coach, but I'm going to pretend I'm you, the client, and ask us some questions if we need to. So Claire, do you want to kick off? I know that you've had kind of a little bit of a brainstorm about this, about the things that would be most useful to talk about today.
Yeah, and I think it's really important just to notice that the first early days of any divorce are probably some of the most traumatic things that anybody will go through in life. Certainly, I remember the early days of my own divorce were some of the darkest days I ever had to live through. And divorce is commonly accepted now as being the second most traumatic event you can go through in life, next to the loss of a loved one. So whether you've chosen it or not, I always compare it to a train derailing or a blanket that contains your whole life that's thrown up into the air, and some bits of it land back on the blanket, some bits of it land over there, other bits of it land behind you, and you don't really know which bits are going to land where. And there's a whole process of putting your life back together, and loads and loads of different feelings. I remember feeling angry one minute, sad the next, lots and lots of fear, lots of overwhelm, and lots of confusion. So one of my jobs is to help people to be able to handle some of those feelings and go through that kind of grieving process that happens as you go through any separation or divorce.
And it is a grief, isn't it, Claire? You know, I think we need to be more vocal about that. This is a grief. You've lost a future you had been imagining, and a relationship that you had treasured at one point.
Exactly. Nobody gets married thinking, I'm going to get divorced. So there's a grieving process around saying goodbye to that relationship, the promise that relationship once held. And I see people going through all the stages of grief really in my work. So often starting with shock and denial. You know, this isn't happening, this can't be happening to me.
Yes.
And then anger. So anger at your ex, perhaps anger at yourself, and anger at the situation. Bargaining. I remember this stage very clearly myself. You know, if only I had been a better wife, this wouldn't be happening to me. And depression is a really normal part of going through a divorce. You know, that feeling of, I just don't want to get out of bed today. I just want to stay under the duvet. And you can swirl around all those stages for some time, backwards and forwards. It's not kind of a linear process. It's very much a circular, swirling whirlpool, really, until you come out the other side eventually and reach acceptance, which doesn't mean you have accepted everything. It means that you've been through this, you accept it happened, you can move forward, and some of that hurt or grief is still there, but you can now live with it and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there is a whole journey through. But what I wanted to do today really was to give some real practical strategies that people can use in those very early days when everything maybe feels just massively overwhelming and you really don't know where to start.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the first thing I would say is to make sure that you have a really strong support network. So important. And that would include friends and family. Mm-hmm. Your family can be massively helpful to you at this time, and your friends. But I would say be very careful choosing who you talk to. So I like the analogy of friends being like radiators and drains. Some of your friends are radiators. You see them, you feel better, you feel warmer, you feel great about yourself. They lift you up. And there are other friends who perhaps are a bit more draining. Perhaps they talk about themselves all the time, or they have a very negative outlook on life. So work out who your radiator friends are and work out how you can spend more time with them. Also, see if have you got a 2 a.m. friend, that friend who you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning when things seem really dark, who can just talk you down and let you know that you are loved.
I'd never be a 2 a.m. friend. I love my friends, but like I'm such an early bird that like 2 a.m. is well in the middle.
You could be the 6 a.m. friend, Kerry.
I'd be a 6 a.m. 5 a.m. friend, crack on.
Just not 2 a.m. But the point is to work out which of your friends can provide which of the things that you need and the support that you need. So you might have some who are really good at listening, others who are really good at practical stuff like looking after your children, if you need to go and get a haircut or whatever. Those who just give the best hugs, so work out which friends fit into each of those categories. And then in that support network as well, there's your legal support network, your financial support network, people like you. And it's so important to get somebody like Kerry involved at a really early stage so that you can have clarity around what the situation looks like. And then also somebody perhaps like me who is an emotional support, but who isn't emotionally involved in your situation, so can be impartial, non-judgmental, and help you work out what you want and where you want to go. So that's the first thing, really.
Experience as well, I suppose, with that, real practical tools and experience of how to move through this, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So creating a brilliant support network would be the first really important thing to do. And then the second thing I think is to focus on yourself and what you can do. So in the very early days, and I remember doing this myself, even a day seemed like too long to contemplate getting through. So I always say to my clients, chunk your time.
Okay.
If you're chunking your time into small amounts, even 5 minutes or even 1 minute, chunk your time into little periods of time that you can get through one at a time. And then make sure that you notice that you've got through another one and give yourself a pat on the back for that. I still remember really clearly the first time I got through a whole morning without crying.
Oh my word.
It was only a couple of months after my husband had left. But looking back now, it was a pivotal moment, and I only noticed that because I was chunking my time and making sure that I was looking at time in small increments. Other things are very practical. So I found it very difficult to eat. So I would advise everybody to eat little and often, because your body really needs fuel right now. It's using a lot of energy, emotional energy. Yeah. So make sure that you eat little and often. And use your breath. So use your breath to bring calm. When you breathe in and you count to 5, hold it for 2, and then breathe out for 7. While you count in your mind, you can interrupt your thoughts, because your brain cannot think and count all at the same time. So it's a good way just to take a moment of calm, one of those moments where all the thoughts are racing around your head and all the worries and all the fears. Use that breathing technique just to bring yourself back, get oxygen back into your brain, and to feel a little calmer.
I love that.
And then you can ask yourself a different question. So I remember asking myself all the time when my husband first left, what did I do to deserve this? Was I such a rotten wife that he felt the need to leave? And actually, that's not a good question, because the answer to that question is never going to be a positive one for me. My brain's a bit like Google, so it will answer the questions you ask it.
Yeah,
so if you notice yourself going down that kind of negative spiral, take those deep breaths and then think, what better question could I ask myself? So a better question might be, who could I contact right now who would help me? What could I do for myself now that would show that I care about me? Has anything good happened today? If I knew, what was the best thing that happened today? What am I proud of actually doing today? And it might be, I'm really proud of getting up out of bed and getting dressed.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it might be, I'm really proud of getting through yesterday, and knowing that today is a new day. It can be very simple. Or even the sun is shining and I'm going out to walk the dog or whatever it is and get some fresh air. So ask yourself better questions. There are some things not to do as well. So I would always say, don't torture yourself with social media. I've had lots of clients who still looking at what their ex is doing on social media, following where they're going, what they're doing, who they're with, So I call that torture by social media. It's like picking a scab, and it just won't heal. So I always advise people to unfriend, unfollow, don't look. Ask your friends not to tell you that they've seen your ex out and about in town with his new girlfriend or her new boyfriend or whatever it might be. And another really good tip as well is to smile. And I remember someone saying this to me really early on in my separation. Smile, Claire, plaster a smile on your face every morning. I thought, that's crazy, that's never going to work. But actually, there's scientific evidence behind when you smile, you release endorphins into your bloodstream. And going through a divorce, you release lots of cortisol because there's lots and lots of stress and you're on high alert a lot of the time. So anything that you can do to get endorphins through your bloodstream is always good. And smiling is a really simple way to do that. So find things to smile about. Even if you don't want to smile, stick that smile on. Even though I'm smiling now and I'm beginning to feel more uplifted just sitting here. And also do things like stretch. You know, get up in the morning, smile and stretch your arms right up above your head. And it's really hard to feel down when you do that. It just breaks the state. Another thing I would suggest that people do is to make a list of things that you enjoy doing. What gives you pleasure? What makes you feel happy? What makes you relax? Who do you enjoy spending time with? And stick those on a big piece of paper and put them on your fridge. Put them on your bathroom mirror and make a commitment to do some of them and to meet some of those people, to give yourself some focus to move forward. So that's all kind of, you know, what can you do? Focus on yourself.
That's amazing.
The third really big tip that I learned very early on in my divorce was to work out what can you control and what can't you control. Massively important. So you can, for example, control your environment in your home. I guess if you're still living with your ex, that's a bit more tricky, but I would always advise people in that situation to try and have at least a space each that belongs to each of you that the other one agrees they won't go into. Yeah. Make that space your own. If you're in the house and your ex isn't there, change things around, move the furniture, get some new cushions, put up some different coloured curtains, get a new duvet set, anything to make it feel very different. I'd also say you can control things like the music you listen to, the TV that you watch. You know, when you listen to lots of miserable music or sad love songs, that's not going to help you right now. Listen to music that's going to make you feel that little bit better. So I remember early on in my breakup, listening to Katrina and the Waves really loudly in the car, walking on sunshine, but it works. It lifts your mood and it makes you feel better. So yeah, watch what music you're listening to. Don't watch massive heavy dramas on TV or listen to the news too much. You know, make sure that you're bringing some light into your world. I think you can also control your body language. As we were saying before, you know, get up in the morning, do a big stretch, arms up high. If you find yourself feeling really low, stand up and do 5-star jumps. Do something to break the state that you're in, and then you can go back to one of your better questions to ask yourself. It's all about interrupting the pattern. You can also control what you wear, of course. So I wear a lot of turquoise because it makes me feel calm and it makes me feel grounded, and it's a very tranquil kind of colour. You might feel, though, when you're going to see your ex, that perhaps you need to wear something that makes you feel strong or confident. So perhaps put in a splash of red or a splash of bright pink, or wear your smartest suit that you would wear to an interview. I don't know, whatever it is that's going to make you feel better. And I remember doing this early on with my ex-husband. I would always wear nice jeans, a nice top, and I'd put on a bit of makeup. And I would think to myself, I need to be dignified. Dignity at all times. Dignity at all times. Should have had it blazoned across my forehead. You know, what you wear can make a massive difference. Yeah. And remember, you can't control them. You cannot control what your ex does, but you can control what you do in response. So another thing that I did early on in my divorce was decide that I was not going to reply to any emails that upset me or made me angry until I had sat with them for 24 hours.
Good plan.
It gives you an opportunity to read it through, have the very emotional reaction, have that anger, or that upset or that pain, sleep on it, and then come back to it again the next day. And quite often I would see something very different in the message. And I would then be able to take a step back and think, okay, maybe he's upset too. Maybe he's also afraid. And if I meet his anger or his accusations with more anger and more accusations, all we're going to do is go round in circles. So that, I call that the 24-hour rule. Just don't reply to anything for 24 hours. And then only reply to the bits that you need to, not the bits that are very personal, for example. Just leave those. You don't need to enter into that debate. You can also control your routine. So let's say with your ex, you always went to the same pub on a Friday night with the same people and did the same thing. Shake it up. Do something different. Go out with a different bunch of people. Go to a different place. Have a different drink. Perhaps one thing I did as well was have all my hair cut off. So I had quite long hair when my husband left, and within maybe 6 weeks I'd had it cut into a bob, and then I had it cut even shorter, and I've never gone back to growing it again. So do something different. Take control back where you can. So really look for ways where you can be in control of your environment and your life, and consciously decide to do things a bit differently.
Amazing. Thank you, Claire. You talk a lot about your own experience, but I think what'd be really useful just to mention here is that you actually are an NLP practitioner. So this is grounded, isn't it, in theory and in practical application as well?
Yeah, so I'm an NLP or neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner. And NLP is all about, essentially we all receive loads and loads of information all the time. So at any one moment in time, I'm probably receiving 9 million pieces of information through all my senses. And we only retain between 5 and 9 of those bits of information.
Wow.
So the bits that you're retaining are totally different to the bits that I'm retaining. And we delete or distort or change the rest according to our beliefs and background. And the work that I do with NLP helps people to look at things in a different way. So I spend a lot of time with people helping them to reframe. How could you see that differently? What if you could see that in a different way? What resources have you used before that you could use now which would help you? And how can we associate into that feeling? So I do quite a lot of work with people around helping them to feel more confident. So we think back to times when they felt really confident. How did you stand when you felt confident? What were you thinking? What were you saying? And let's practice that and watch it. You can do kind of a mind movie in your mind. So let's say you're worried about seeing your ex tomorrow because you've got a meeting, or you have to hand over the children, whatever it might be, something that's really worrying you. We'll work out what you want to say, what you want to look like, how you want to stand, and then we'll do an exercise where I run through it with you and you watch it through in your mind. We'll watch it through, and you're behaving exactly as you want to, behaving in the best way that you can, saying all the things you want to say. And then we'll watch it right through till it's finished, and then rewind it back to the start and watch it again, and this time even better. And then we'll rewind and watch it through again. And the theory behind that is that your memory and imagination fire the same circuits in your brain. So if you can imagine something strongly enough, when you come to do it in real life, your brain will think you've already done it, and it will be a lot easier to do. Amazing. So I use a lot of techniques like that use the imagination and use the subconscious.
I think when you are in this turmoil and you're aware that you probably need to reach out, it can be really hard to appreciate the value from working with a divorce coach, particularly if you don't understand that it isn't just about somebody talking to you, which is really valuable, but there's all these other tools and experiences and practical advice that they can give you like that. Like, we talked about you helping people if they have to go to a court appearance and kind of that feeling of confidence again, and how they kind of come across in the courtroom. And it is just about knowing the help that is out there and how it looks. So thank you, Claire. I think you've given people a real taster of what support they could get out there, but also some really practical kind of first steps. I know it's such a traumatic time, so I'm hoping the women who've watched this have taken loads and loads of value. I know I have. I'm going to pop your links and your website, and also just put your description below in the YouTube so that people can find you there if they want to find out more. And thank you ever so much. It's been brilliant.
Thank you very much, Kerry. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.